Okay, hi guys. So this is week 5. We are just going to go over the final topic that for the session really, and next week is a bit more of a summary. So this week we're talking particularly about sugars, salts, and fats. So I'm just going to share my screen. I'm just going to begin the slideshow, and here we have it. So sugars, salt, and fat. Now this is probably one. I leave this till the last session because this is one of probably the biggest sort of topics that most people want to know about. So it's quite a significant one. Let's start. So we're going to talk about sugars first. Now sugars, just a few facts about sugars before we start. So we've got sugar is a type of carbohydrate. Okay, so it's important that you know that when you're reading the label. So when we looked at the label reading week, when we did that one, you'll notice that on the label it said carbohydrates, of which sugars. So that's really important that you know that sugar is a type of carbohydrate. There are two types of sugars that you kind of, as again, this is a kind of a basic information about the sugars, but there are two types that will probably again help you identify which ones are okay and which ones are not, because we do talk about natural sugars and we talk about added sugars. Okay, so let's just talk a little bit about them. So complex and simple carbohydrates, yeah, so that's what we call them, complex and simple. Now these two types of carbohydrates have different ways that they react and release in the body. So complex carbohydrates, they release slower, okay? We'll talk about what that is in a moment, but it means that when you eat complex carbohydrates, or when they go into the body, they release slower, so they keep you fuller for longer, okay? Simple carbohydrates release faster. Yeah, so you get a quicker hit of sugar, but they don't keep you fuller for longer. Okay, so simple carbohydrates, complex carbohydrates. Complex carbohydrates are found in whole grains. Whole grains, again, stay in the body. So things like oats, yeah, so if you're having oats, they release slower into the body, okay, therefore keeping you fuller for longer. So you can see, can't you, that it's the complex carbohydrates that we need to be eating a little bit more of. Okay, so they're the ones that you want to focus on. They are essentially your natural sugars, they, naturally occurring sugars. So complex carbohydrates are where we would be looking at. Simple carbohydrates is your added sugar. Okay, so those are the ones that you would definitely be thinking about reducing down. Okay, so things like, adding sugar to your tea, things like sweets, yeah, things like that. So they're the ones that you'll find simple carbohydrates in. So complex carbohydrates is slow releasing, and simple carbohydrates fast releasing. That's essentially a kind of little mini breakdown. There's a lot more to be said about this topic, but in a nutshell, that's what you need to know. Okay. How much though do we need? How much sugar do we need? Now just pause this if you want to have a little think. How much sugar it is? The recommendation is from the government, obviously, from our government UK. It's been like this for a little while, so it hasn't been really changed. Now, just very quickly before I move on, when we talk about the recommendations for sugars, we are talking about free sugars. It's not free as in free for, you can have as many as you like. Free sugars is what we call our added sugars. Okay, so all your biscuits, your cakes, things like that. Added sugar to tea, things like that. So this is a recommendation for free sugars. Okay, I'll talk a little bit more about the other sort of type of sugar shortly. So free sugars, added sugars, adults and children who are older than 11 should have no more than 30 grams a day, and that's of free sugars. Yeah, so that's things like sweets, high sugar cereals, adding sugar, and it's about 7 teaspoons, so it's not much. Yeah, roughly about 70 teaspoons, and that's a day. I'll move on to I'll give you a quick fact in a moment, but children aged 7 to 10 should have no more than 24 grams, so less, yeah, obviously, for obvious reasons. And again, of free sugars, that's roughly 6 teaspoons. Yeah, so no more than 6 teaspoons of added sugar a day. And children aged 4 to 6, no more than 19 grams. Okay, so that's roughly 5 teaspoons a day. So no more than 5 teaspoons of sugar for that age range. Any children under, yeah, try and avoid as much sugar as possible. One of my fun fact, well, it's not really a fun fact actually, it's quite astonishing. My astonishing fact is that children under the age of 4 are getting, actually children in general, but mainly sort of reception age children are getting nearly all of their sugar intake before they even leave the house in the morning, and it's coming from sugary cereals and sugary drinks as well. So if you've got young children, help them to reduce it by reducing their free sugars. Now, just very quickly, before we move on to salt, I'm just going to very quickly just add in this little bit about sugars. Free sugars is added sugar. Yeah, so things like cakes, adding sugar to your tea, actual sugar, sweets, all of those sort of added sugar items, that's what the recommendation's for. Things like your naturally occurring sugars, things like fruit juice, although fruit juice, there's a whole different sort of thing about fruit juice. If you ever do a diabetes course, then that they'll talk about that. But fruit juice is an iffy one. But anything like your fruits, then that's not included. So you can have those. You don't have to include that in it. This is free sugars. This is added sugars. So your sweets, cakes, chocolate, things like that. Good. So that's, in a nutshell, that's sugars. Okay. Reducing the amount of sugar, added sugars that you have in your daily diet is key to a healthy lifestyle. Okay, it's going to help you certainly maintain your weight or reduce your weight if that's what you're looking for, weight control. It's going to help you with tooth decay, because the biggest cause of tooth decay is added sugars. So yeah, try and reduce that down and look at that recommendation of 7 teaspoons, no more. Okay, this is not like your 5 a day. This is something to stay under. Yeah, so you don't have, it's not like something you have to achieve. If you are well under this, then great. Yeah, I've added sugars. Let's move on to salt. Salt. Now, too much salt can cause high blood pressure. Okay, so this is why we have a recommendation for salt. One of the biggest causes of high blood pressure is people adding salt to their cooking or adding salt to their meals or eating salty foods. Okay, so high blood pressure obviously equals a higher risk of heart attack and stroke. So that's the reason why we need to be reducing it. We're getting our salt from things like, again, cereals. Some cereals are really high in salt, ready meals, processed meats, takeaways. All of these are really high in salt. Go back to your label reading session and have a go at reading the label, making sure that you are having lower salt varieties. One of the biggest things, though, where people are getting it is that we're still adding it at the table. Yeah, so try and not to do that. Do it gradually. If you're used to a salty diet, just do it slowly. Reduce initially and then cut out completely. How much though? So the government recommendation again is for this salt, and again, this is not something to achieve. This is something to stay under. Okay, and you'll be surprised, I think, at this one. Anybody aged 11 and over, no more than 6 grams a day, which is a teaspoon. Yeah, so no more than a teaspoon of salt a day, and we are definitely getting these more than double, triple. Yeah, most people are getting this more than the recommendation. Children aged 7 to 10, no more than 5 grams a day, so that's even less. Children aged 4 to 6, no more than 3 grams a day. Children aged 1 to 3, no more than 2 grams. And any children under the age of 1 gram a day, if at all. babies should not be having salt. Yeah, their kidneys cannot process it. They're far too young. Yeah, the kidneys are not developed enough to process the salt. So definitely, not much salt at all. Keep to these recommendations, and again, reduce. Yeah, try and think about reducing the salt intake rather than cutting it out completely. Yeah, so just start to think about, are you adding it at the table? That's the first recommendation, actually, that I would, if you are adding salt to your food, to your cooking and your food, try and cut that out to start with, and then think about the products or the things that you're eating. Like, are you eating ready meals? Are you eating highly processed meats? Things like salami, really high in salt. Yeah, so try and reduce that if you are having those items. Fat. Should we eat fat at all? Have a think about that. Pause it if you need to just have a little bit of a breather. Should we be eating fat at all in our diet? If you've just paused it, let's move on. We do need a little bit of fat, but a little bit of good fats, okay? It's important to know that it's only a small amount. Remember going back to the Eat Well Guide session where it was a tiny little slither, wasn't it? But we do need the good fat to keep us a little bit warm. Yeah, if you don't have a little bit of fat in your body, then you're going to struggle to keep your warmth, maintain your warmth. Certain vitamins need fat to absorb into the body. Okay, so particularly A, D, and E they're fat soluble vitamins. Yeah, so what that means is that they need a little bit of fat to be absorbed. Okay, we need a little bit of good fat for good brain function. Yeah, so our brain is made up of quite a lot of fat, so it does need to have good fat for good brain function. And it protects our organs. It's a little bit like bubble wrap around our organs, okay, but the good fat. Now I'm going to talk about the types. Now, again, this is a bit of a minefield. I could do a whole hour session on fats, because it's there's lots to be spoken about. There's different types. There's lots of things like coconut oils and things like that, which we don't touch on in this, because this is just the basics of fats. So let's talk about types of fat. So the first one, obviously, unsaturated fat. Unsaturated fat is found in oils from plants and fish. Things like, your vegetable oils, your olive oils, they are classed as unsaturated fat. Things like rapeseed oil, yeah, and fish. So oily fish, things like your salmons, your tuna, even whitefish, all unsaturated fat. So those are the ones that obviously are the better fats for you. So try and choose plant-based where possible. Saturated fat found in meat products. Yeah, definitely things like sausages, processed meats, butter, creams, biscuits and cakes, all the things we like. Biscuits and cakes, that's where your saturated fat is found. Okay. We talk a little bit in a minute about which ones to reduce. Trans fat. Now, we don't really hear too much about trans fat anymore. Manufacturers are not using it as they're not using it as often, or definitely probably not in the UK more than anywhere else. But they are found. Well, they're called hydrogenated oils, basically. Anywhere where you see hydrogenated, that's generally a trans fat. And some meats carry trans fat. It is a really, really high fat concentrate. Lard used to be a trans fat, saturated fat. So in brief, unsaturated fat, swap to that. Yeah, so if you're not already using plant-based oils or eating plenty of good oils, that's where you're going to get your fish. You will get some from avocados, yeah, as well. So unsaturated fat is where you need to swap to. Yeah. Again, we need a little bit of fat, but if you're having unsaturated fat, that's where you need to be. But again, we'll talk about it in a minute, so I'll leave that. I was about to say something, but I will save it for later. So try and swap to unsaturated fats. Try and reduce your saturated fats. So things like your meat products, sausages, especially processed meats, butters, creams, biscuits, cakes, they've all got saturated fat in. So try and start to reduce. Yeah, start to reduce those down. Have them as treats. Yeah. Everything in moderation. You know, have you know, not every week. Yeah. Once a month, maybe have those as treats. Trans fats, definitely avoid. Yeah. Trans fats, try and avoid the most, you know, so processed meats, definitely. But anywhere where it says hydrogenated, yeah, avoid it. You know, it's a really, that's what we call really bad fat. So unsaturated fat, try and swap to those. Just a quick tip as well. One of the oils that I recommend is using rapeseed oil. It's got the least amount of saturated fat, and it's also you can use it for most cooking methods. Yeah, so rapeseed oil, olive oil, yeah, again, same sort of thing. Extra virgin olive oil, use mainly on salads. Yeah, it's better to be eaten as a raw product rather than cooked. No matter what, though, whichever type of any type of these, even if it's the good fat, it still contains the most calories per gram than any other nutrient. Okay, so it contains 9 calories per 1 gram. So you can see, can't you, how quickly your calorie content can go up if you have a diet high in fat. So not only is it not good for your health, you know, regardless of weight, it's not going to help with weight loss, yeah, or weight maintenance. So reducing your overall fat intake is advised, okay, to maintain a healthy weight. You know, generally over the you know, the course of a week, try and reduce your fat intake, and you'll find that your calorie intake is less as well. Okay, so that's something, just a little fact for you. Finally, guidelines. So for fat, men should not eat more than 30 grams of fat, saturated fat, sorry, a day. And women should not eat more than 20 grams of saturated fat. Now, that's evened out a little bit. It's, although this is still the recommendation from Public Health England, the government guidelines. However, as a rule, try and, you know, as women as well as men, you know, try and stick to less than 20 grams of saturated fat. Yeah, a day. Children should have obviously less. Yeah, so try and you know, keep your saturated fat across the family. If you've got, you know, young children, keep your saturated fat intake across the whole of the family. Try and keep it down. Yeah, choose unsaturated fat options where possible. So summarizing this whole session: reduce sugar, salt and fat in your diet to maintain a healthy lifestyle. Yeah, start to reduce. This is my advice, one of the best outcomes, or people always come back to me and they say that they've achieved it by just reducing first. Yeah, so don't think to yourself, right, I'm going to cut out sugar, I'm going to cut out fat, salt. Try and do it gradually. Yeah, little by little. Just reduce first, reduce, and then cut out. Yeah. Try to choose lower sugar, salt, and fat options. Yeah. The supermarkets are great now. You can buy low sugar jams if jam is your thing. Yeah, if jam is your thing, then you think, no, I'm still going to have my jam. You can buy low sugar jams. Yeah, they taste better as well. So lower sugar jams, low sugar, you know, anything that's lower sugar, better. Lower salt and things like gravies. Again, you can buy lower salt gravies and things like that. So, you know, buy those low salt, you know, savory snacks. Look at the lower salt options. And fat, again, there's plenty of options. Yeah, of lower fat options out there. Sugar, just something to think about as well, especially with children as well. Reduce fizzy drinks, biscuits and cakes. Yeah. Again, children are having far too many sugary fizzy drinks, but sugary drinks. Yeah. Fizzy drinks, meaning, you know, sugary fizzy drinks. If you do like, you know, a fizzy drink, you could, you know, the better option would be obviously your diet, or Coke Zero, things like that. To start off with, again, if you're reducing it down and you still like your fizzy drink, try that first. Yeah, and then cut out. Don't add salt to your cooking or meals. That's, again, that's where I want you to start. Yeah, that is my tip to you. Start by not adding it to your cooking or your meals when you're at the table. Yeah, that's one of the easiest ways to reduce your salt intake. Reduce all the way though. So all of my recommendations that I've talked about today, sugar, salt and fat, reduce first and then cut out. You'll be more likely to succeed. I have put some links at the end of the session here, which you can have a look. They're all on the NHS website, so have a look. There's lots more information on there, especially about fats. Obviously, you get this PDF so that you can have a look at. Make sure that you do, because this is here. This is all free. These resources are here for you. It's all there to have a look at. Have a look. Have a go. Yeah. So that's your sugars, fats, and salt week. Reduce it down. Try and think about actively now doing that. Use your food labels, reading, to do that as well. Look at labels. Start looking at labels, and you'll be able to succeed better if it's just reducing. That's it, guys. I'm going to stop sharing. Hopefully that has made sense. Without being able to sort of have a conversation with you and talk to you, I can't obviously gauge whether or not. However, feel free to sort of message, to see if you've got any questions at all. Message the contact that you've got, and then I can answer them. I'm happy to do that. Have a good week, guys, and then next week is your final session. Bye.